I don't believe that a relationship between the central bank and the finance ministry, they can agree on every issue. They need not disagree on every issue, but by a process of consultation and discussion at various levels, whatever we have done is in order to ensure that consultations take place. And let me put the record straight. Consultations have taken place at the level of the Prime Minister on several occasions. They have taken place at my level on innumerable occasions. They take place at the level of the secretaries on several occasions. And therefore, our interest is, and let me just define the elements, there are some issues which are completely in the domain of the government, some issues completely in the domain of the central bank. There is no dispute. Ultimately, after consultation, you exercise your respective functions. There are some where the policy is laid by the government. Certain measures are to be taken by the central bank. There necessarily has to be a coordination between the two. And therefore, a difference perspective doesn't mean it's an institutional failure. In a democracy on complex issues, everybody need not agree on the same thing.
So you're saying that you didn't agree with Raghuram Rajan because he was a selection of the previous government?
Not in the least. Not in the least. I have maintained utmost courtesies with the institution as also with the individuals who have manned these institutions.
But he resigned. But he resigned.
You are again factually wrong. He had a 3-year term. He completed his 3-year term. Your colleagues in the media made it out as though he's resigned. He did not resign. He completed his 3-year term.
And you do admit that you are not on the same page with Mr. Urjit Patel, a man your government selected.
Well, you may not be on the same page with your co-anchors in several programs or with other colleagues on the same program. That doesn't mean there is a collapse of institution. In democracy, you are meant to disagree on several issues. Otherwise, it will become meaningless. Now, the government's viewpoint is we respect and will always maintain the autonomy within the framework of the laws which have been laid down. At the same time, if there are sectors of the economy which are starved of either liquidity or credit, as a sovereign government which represents the people, which has the larger interest of the economy in mind, we certainly will flag those issues.
Common man feels that the government somehow wants the reserves of the Reserve Bank of India, 3.6 lakh crores. Many have depicted this as the reserves that will go into financing your election year expenditure of the Modi government.
Who has said this? Only those who took India's fiscal deficit to 6% when they had the responsibility. We have nothing of this sort in mind. First, let us tell your so-called common man as to what fiscal deficit is. How much does the government collect and how much does the government spend? If you spend beyond your earnings, that's your fiscal deficit because you are borrowing from the markets. You are then going to leave your next generation in debt. During the UPA, it went haywire as high as 6%. We inherited a 4.6% fiscal deficit. This government since 1947, in its 5-year tenure, has the best record of fiscal prudence that any government has had.